Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. Get ready for an hour of hot 40k goodness coming in your ears. You're in the tank now, baby.
We're live!
We are indeed live. Sorry, I was just anticipating that countdown. It's all good. How you doing, my man? You okay?
I'm great, mate. I'm absolutely banging. How are you?
Well, yes, I'm good. Welcome, everybody, to In the Tank, episode 12. Oh, my God. We're now seriously getting into the teens now. Getting into the teen numbers.
It's happening, isn't it?
It is. How you doing, mate? Loving the shirt today. Look at that. If anyone can't see if they're listening to the pod, he's in a very floral, very bright autumnal orange shirt. Like, that's lovely.
Yeah. It's a bright number, but you know the winter is coming, so I thought I would like liven up the room a bit.
I'm going for the Scandi dad.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I saw that.
The Scandinavian DILF is like my entire vibe. Absolutely, that's where I'm going with this.
Incredible. Yeah. DILF is a word I haven't heard in a while.
There you go. See, I've got
a
very specific target audience in mind.
Yeah.
How's life, dude? You okay? How's the hobby going for you?
Hobby's going well. So every time we do this little intro segment with the hobby, you're like, what are you doing this week? And I'm like, I'm doing this. And then the next week I'm like, I sacked that off and I'm doing something different. So true to my style, I was doing 2 Doomsday arts, but I've since had about 1,000 test games with my LGT list and binned them off. And I've brought back my boy, the King.
The Silent King.
Oh,
nice.
Do you know what? He is doing work in my games. That ignore modifiers is fantastic. Like both defensively and offensively, because obviously if I'm going against your little Deathwing losers, those knights of yours, then I can just ignore their -1 damage and clap their cheeks all day.
Whatever, mate. Whatever.
It's
to be honest, truly epic heroes like that. I know that obviously epic heroes are any sort of standalone characters, but like what I would call as like Primarch level threats, like Primarch level threats. So like the Silent King, Gaz. Like any demon Primarchs or whatever. Yeah. Whenever I'm opposite those in a game, I'm always like, oh no, like, okay, like what am I doing here? Like, am I ignoring them or am I going to try and kill them? Yeah. And yeah, I imagine the Silent King gives people headaches in terms of like how you actually get around him. Right?
He's just a lot of fun. Like he's just annoying. He's got all the buffing. He's got like the menhirs scare people, even though they never really. I always roll a 1 at some point. Like it's inevitable. I'll go like 2. I need 2s. That's a 1. Cool. And then I need 2s to wound you or 3s to wound you. That's a 1 again.
1. Yeah, always the case.
Good talk. So but it keeps people out of the mid lane. So.
Hey, it's what I affectionately describe as the hunter-killer missile theory, right?
Yeah. The lucky thing is he actually does have an aura of reroll 1s to hit and wound. But the problem is I always need the damn ignore modifiers one because it's so good. So yeah, we'll see. But so basically what I'm doing is I'm just touching up my wraiths and putting some guns on a few of them that were missing them. Just getting them a bit sexy because they're all I really need to do now for my list. So that is what I've been up to. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, very quickly, you're doing LGT though, aren't you, soon?
I am, yeah. It's not
Which is
this
the London
weekend,
Grand Tournament, everybody.
Yeah.
London Grand Tournament. Yeah, so it's the following weekend, is it?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Good luck with that, mate. You have a great time.
Cheers, buddy.
And I need to bully you because I'm also potentially preparing for a day event, which is the Into the Maelstrom event. No, well, I'm doing the doubles event with you in November.
Yeah, we are.
So I'm painting stuff up for that. So currently on my desk are 10 Deathwing Knights, all with maces of absolution getting painted up. 5 old ones, 5 new ones.
Yeah,
it's quite cool. And the scheme that I'm doing with that is a piss take, but it's going to look amazing. Where it is a reflection of like the old 30k Horus heresy scheme, which is like the black armor with red accentuation, and then patches of cream.
You love your
patches of cream, but in random location, not like a split down the middle. Like they're random. Like so, some one's a leg, some one's the front of a leg, one's a shoulder pad, one's the entire top torso.
It'll look really cool when it's done.
Oh, dude, but it's a pain in the ass because obviously you've got to isolate those ones and make sure you don't like fuck over anything else you painted.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that at the moment, and I've got 5 Celestian Sacrosants that I've just got hanging out on my paint desk. I don't even know why they're there. I think just in case I need a very quick palette
company.
Yeah. just so, do you know what they're there for? I think is to keep you on the straight and narrow in terms of my heretical thoughts of like. Honestly, the 2 sides of like the Lorgar's like my devil, and like Celestine's like my angel, and they're just like constantly fighting each other now.
You're just like Celestine. You're like, Celestine, save me, and Lorgar's like.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. You want to hurl 30 possessed at your opponent, don't you? And I'm like, yes, Lorgar, I do. That sounds really fun, actually. I do really want to do that.
I've had like a little Sanctus, like a Gene Stealer Sanctus, just sat on my table, like when I've been doing all this Necron stuff for LGT, and he's just been
looking at you, like
judging me, like you need to come
now.
back.
Yeah, I thought you were one of the four-armed emperor.
Where are you, Daddy?
You abandoned us.
Yeah. We will rise. They're waiting for their Ascension Day.
But yeah, so me and you've got both of us have got 2 tournaments on the horizon. You potentially do. Comments, bully Ed, get him coming to the In the Maelstrom event. Will you?
Yeah.
Will you actually come?
I've just got to clear it with management, and then I'll be fine.
Sure, of course. That's because I'll be there, and I'll be your bro-ho there, like giving you cuddles and high
Hopefully
fives.
we'd match into each other again, and I can actually push your shit in this time.
I mean, you can try, but I've got a good track record at the moment, so it's fine.
It's 1-to-1, I'll tell you. So don't be pushing your luck with all this good track record bollocks. We're even Stevens.
Look, I didn't have my decks, bro, and I was just hanging it out with bloody, Desolation Marines. I was in the meta, mate. I was like headstrong in the meta. Now I'm figuring it out and going off kilter, and people are like, oh, how am I going to deal with 30 Terminators? Oh no! And I'm like, how?
I love it, like when people play my Necrons list currently, and they're like, so I've got a Scorpack Lord, and they're like, where are the Scorpack? Who's he leading? And I'm like, he's leading himself. Because he's just going to come in and go, X going to give it to you with Zera. So they're just double team an objective.
Did you make an X reference? X going to give it to you.
Honestly, those boys in my games have just been a nightmare. It's like, just get back up. Oh, it's been fun. Been a lot of fun.
Fair. Right then, before we proceed with our first topic of the day, like, comment, subscribe, do all the cool things that let people know that we exist.
So good at this.
I know, aren't I? I'm learning. I'm growing like a tyrannid. I'm learning. Like us on social media, In the Tank 40k on Insta, and obviously on our YouTube channel, where we will have some exclusive content coming at some point soon. We love you. Give us some love. Thank you for all your comments so far. It's been great. A lot of people liked our last video, ironically, which is really cool. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been doing really well, actually.
Yeah, it's been doing great. So thank you.
And if you guys want to see battle reports at some point in the near future, then give us a subscribe on Battle Barn. We're on battle_barn on Instagram and just Battle Barn on YouTube. That'll be going live soon. I need to get 50 subscribers to even be able to stream, which I was like, oh shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you do. So I'm all right. I've got like a dozen so far. So we'll get there, but I haven't actually produced any content yet.
That.
So
there you go. No, you'll be fine. You'll have all of your peeps like give you some love there. So it'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll get them in.
Awesome.
So carry on.
So cracking on with episode 12. So the biggest rival miniature games of GW/Warhammer. Should Games Workshop/Warhammer ever be worried about their competition? So, do you know of any prominent other game companies/games that exist that you think are interesting?
I know that Mini Wargaming Dave has made his own whole set of miniatures, and I think the first sort of wave were very closely like proxies for CSM, but they weren't officially meant to be proxies for CSM. And he's since sort of developed, he's got his own game system, I think, that runs that whole thing. And those are really cool minis. They're all like 3D printed. They look like really good quality stuff. So he's done some stuff that's, got his own little game, and it seems to be doing well. So that's one that comes to the top of my head. What about yourself?
No, that's fair. I've got a few, actually. It seems like, from all intents and purposes, due to like economic stuff or time restraints or whatever, that like skirmish games are like all in at the moment. Like people love a good skirmish game. So like I don't know like how popular this game was, but I remember there was a lot of talk about this game when it first came out, and a lot of people love it. And the miniatures range is actually pretty awesome, which is the Malifaux range.
Okay, I've heard of it.
Which basically is Mordheim 2.0. It's kind of in a more like Cthulhu-esque kind of world. It's very gangy.
I love that
but
sort of stuff.
Yeah, but like, it's very skirmish based. It's like, it's not like armies per se. And like, that's massively popular. That range is huge. How many players that they have? I mean, let's be real. Like the monolith of the industry is still GW. It will probably always will be GW for a long, long time. But also on that similar vein, you've also got Frostgrave, of course.
Yeah, Frostgrave is another one I've heard of. Yeah,
that's becoming hot shit at the moment. Like a lot of people, I know that Peachy is a massive fan of Frostgrave, like absolutely massive. Because again, it doesn't have that weird IP issue where if you use models out of thing, you're not allowed to use them and stuff. You can just model what the hell you want to, and like on 28mm, I think it's on 28mm scale, so you can just do as you please and just make your whole warbands whatever you want to make them, so you can mix and match from across ranges and stuff.
Peachy's is quite into his skirmish miniature games because I'm a massive Warcry fan. I love that, and he is as well. I know that. I'd say like it's a similar sort of thing. I think these sort of skirmish games where you don't have a huge point of entry, you don't need more than maybe like a dozen models in most cases, even less sometimes. Really good fun. And I think as like a company that can produce like a tight set of rules with like limited range of figures, I kind of get why skirmish games are quite popular in that regard. Because, competing with the behemoth that is Games Workshop at a level that Games Workshop is with its miniature range is going to be tough for any company to do, right? Because it's massive. And that's just 40k. If you go into AOS, there's a whole like another doubling up of it all. So I kind of get the skirmish idea. They're good. They're a lot of fun.
I do think that Games Workshop are yet to master the skirmish game fully, though. Like, I know I rag on about like GW's ability to create a good skirmish game, and I know that like
it's because you've never played Warcry.
Yeah, I know. You say this. I'm
going to make you play it at some point, right? I will make you play Warcry because it is really good.
I will ask you this question about Warcry: is it complicated?
No, it's really simple. It's really, really simple, but like it has like depth to it. So it's like it's not simple. Okay, it's simple to learn.
That was coming.
It's simple to learn. It's simple to pick up, but it's in depth enough that you will be able to master the strategy of the game. And I like the fact that it feels very like visceral and real. So things like knocking people off ledges, that's a really cool idea. And there are certain elements and mechanics that can play into that. There's a guy that can throw a harpoon at somebody and pull them forward X amount of inches. So you can like just pull someone off into like a spike trap or some cool stuff like that. And you get like your blood dice basically like Angron gets, like World Eaters get. So you have like, you choose which dice you use, doubles, triples, whatever, to do your big abilities at the start of each round. And it's really cool. Like it's deep. It's not Mordheim depth. It's not Necromunda depth. It's nowhere near as crunchy as that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
If you want a crunchy rule system, go down that route. But this is just a fun, quick half an hour, 20-minute game. Anyone can pick it up and play it. It's great, honestly. Can't recommend it.
You got that Star Wars one as well, haven't you? What is that called? That seems really good.
I can't remember what it's called, but I have seen it.
Yeah, because that one's
that's picking up a lot of steam as well lately.
Yeah, actually, I just remembered that. But like, I don't know, man. I think with skirmish style games, you either want to go in two radically different approaches, which is the Frostgrave system, which I've heard is very simple, very streamlined. Like you can get a game done in like 45 minutes, kind of vibe, and like have it, and it be really transparent and open, right? Or you go down the really hardcore, almost like narrative-based approach, which is Necromunda, Mordheim, whatever. So I think you need one of two radically different approaches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, just to get off the skirmish thing as well, in terms of other sort of style games, bolt action's obviously massive, like World War II games, which I'm really surprised,
really popular.
Why it's taken so long for like that style of game to really catch on, because obviously the infrastructure in there was kind of in place with like Airfix, right, where it was like period style kits that were like tanks and vehicles and planes and stuff, but like now it's that at true scale with like 28mm infantry, and it's like classic World War II battles. The mechanics are really good, by the way. I don't know if you know about the mechanics. So how you do turn sequences and turn activations is a bag of beads. So like you put different coloured beads in there. So say you've got So say you're the Soviets, you obviously have more beads than your opponent, right? So say you're a Soviet, you have like 60 beads. Sorry for all bolt action players that are like, technically they're called place tokens or objective or whatever. But essentially you put a load of beads in a bag. If you have more units, you have more beads. And then you randomly take them out. So you could get a turn where someone has like 5 turns from taking out 5 of their beads randomly.
Right. Okay.
But as soon as you hit an opponent's bit, they get to do an activation or do a thing, and that's wild.
That's cool. That is
isn't
interesting.
it? So obviously, but the further on you get through the game, if you've had a load of actions at the beginning, you might be a bit starved for actions at the end. So it has like that counterplay of like
it's a trade-off. I do know a few people that love it, and I've never played it. It's something I'd love to play, but I don't own any of the models. I don't really know anyone that closely that plays it, or at least not locally. So it's something I've seen people playing, but I've always gone, that looks cool, but it just never got into it. But it is a really cool range as well because it's proper, authentic historic stuff.
Yeah,
isn't it?
You can also do like famous battle recreations and stuff like that. Also, they have like a Dad's Army Home Guard miniatures range for like all of the Dad's Army characters as like home guards, which is fucking, that's really cool. As a British person, like that strikes quite deep with us, I think. But there we go. But very cool.
There are some like really good, interesting, unique games out there as well. I was at the game store the other day and I was playing a game of 40k, and then these guys were just playing this game behind me, and I sort of like I was kind of earwigging, looking around, and they had motherfucking pirate ships. They like huge pirate ships. They're like, massive, great things going around. They had all like smoke, and they were like shooting each other with broadsides. I can't remember what the game was called. I'll have to find out, but it was so cool. And I came over and this guy just walked in with this massive galleon, and he was like, Get ready, boys. And I was just like, what are you playing? This is awesome.
It just makes you realise like how GW, once you swallow the like GW Kool-Aid, how like GW focused we get.
It's hard to shake it.
It's really hard, isn't it? And actually there's some crazy shit out there. It's just the only issue that you ever have is like those games being so much smaller that to build a community has to be so grassrootsy. Rather, you can go to any city within reason in the UK and there will be a Warhammer community somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? There just will. You'll find them.
Always.
But there may not be like a Bolt Action community or a Frostgrave community, and you have to build it yourself almost.
Yeah. And
kind of be indoctrinated into it as like a
I often find that the whole Games Workshop thing for me is actually almost a one of headspace in terms of I find that their rules are so intricate and like entwined and complex, and I look at the game and I know it really well now because I've played it for such a long time, but then I think to myself, if I started playing AOS or another sort of big battle game, it's going to start like confusing me with rules. I'm going to start going, oh, hang on, wait, no, sorry, that's AOS. And that's why I can't even branch out into that mentally, because I'm so into 40k that like other game systems just put me off. I'm like, first of all, I don't have any of the models. Second of all, I don't have time to learn it. And third of all, I'd probably get it confused if I did. So
I think you would really like Lord of the Rings because it's really easy and fun.
I've heard so much good stuff about Lord of the Rings. I've got a few minis from it, but I've never actually properly played it. So it will have to come out at some point, I think.
See, I've had quite a diverse background in terms of my wargaming because I've played a lot of Lord of the Rings in my past. I played a lot of fantasy. And I'll tell you what, fantasy, if you think 40k is like hard, holy shit, dude. Like fantasy is like, do you want to digest this rulebook? It's like, do you know with the 40k rulebook that actually only a very small percentage of the 40k rulebook is ironically rules, right? Where it's like 30 pages of the 30k. Right, imagine that for fantasy, but flip the script on that. Same with Horus Heresy. Like Horus Heresy is quite complicated as well.
Yeah.
But fantasy is epic. Like fantasy is truly awesome. Like love it of fantasy. But should GW ever be worried like about all of this competition that's happening, or should they just take it in their stride?
I don't think so, from my perspective at least, because I think it's very much IP based. I don't think that the models are so much the issue. I do know there are great models out there for other game systems. Some of them are much nicer than the stuff Games Workshop's produce, and some of the Games Workshop stuff is much nicer than the stuff that other people have produced. There's models and models. Some of them are great, some of them not so much. Some of them have like tiny little wings on their jetpacks and little no nipples, but equally, you have those ones like we talked about, like Be'lakor, like that new Skaven guy, some incredible sculpts. So I think it is actually just an IP thing. Obviously, Warhammer 40k is a pretty well protected IP, as is Age of Sigmar and all their fantasy stuff. So I don't think, apart from people sort of creating proxies like we were discussing at the beginning of this sort of segment, I don't think there's too much for them to really worry about. And even then, I don't think the majority of people are going to play them. So
I think the 3D printing revolution is something for them to be more concerned about going forward.
Yeah.
But I think as a consumer, it all kind of works with us because where we're getting this groundswell, it's almost like miniature wargaming is kind of having a second like lease of life across the board, right? Where it's like, as a result of all of this, we're getting like way better infrastructure around the hobby that might not be necessarily just buying models anymore. And what I mean by that is like, when you used to go into a GW like in the early 2000s and to some degree in the 90s, but not as much, I suppose, like GW was kind of like the central point for all of your peripherals that you needed in order to enjoy the hobby. So like your paintbrushes, your glue, all of your components, your paints, right? But I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but there's now like hundreds of different paint companies, hundreds of different brush companies, even stuff like movement trays or 3D printing like extra bits or whatever, or dice companies that make custom dice and cool stuff like that, and like dice trays. And do you know what I mean? And that was never the case before. No. Like this always seems to be like a groundswell. So it's kind of like 8th edition. I've noticed it a lot more. And like that's cool. So as a 40k player, you can kind of like jump on the benefit of like that becoming a perpetual thing in the hobby. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, massively. Like there's a huge amount of, like we've discussed Colourforge before, you know, things like that where they just pop up and they make basically like a better value for money version with more options, you know, than Games Workshop. You get more bang for your buck. It's why wouldn't you use it, you know? And you've got, as you said, it's just sort of like it's popped up an entire section of like businesses around this hobby. You know, you've got people, like you said, making dice. You know, we've got our dice for Tryhard from Baron of Dice, a really good company if anyone wants good custom dice. You do have to import them from America, but they are very, very good, and buy them in bulk, which is, so they're expensive, but they are really good. But again, it's like this whole industry has appeared around like Warhammer and other miniature games, but it seems mostly Warhammer, you know, of its various varieties. People making measuring sticks and dongles, you know, everything. It's great. It's lovely to see it. 9-inch and me 3-inch.
Yeah, dude,
I saw your face.
That has to be, you know, if we get into the privileged position to make merch, I think that has to be one of the first things that we offer people is like the 3-inch.
We can just make dongles.
Sticks.
You can just make them actual dongles. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so cool. It'd be so much fun. But there we go.
Little Eddie and Big Russ.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's interesting, right? I think any competition is healthy, and I think we're going to benefit from it in the long run. And as you say,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's fascinating. I mean, just keep an eye on it. I mean, I backed on Kickstarter a new old paint range called the P3 paint range. The P3 have just done a campaign on that, and it's all to do with like blending paints, basically.
Okay.
And they've gone completely old school where they sent a PDF where it's like, if you want this kind of colour, use this paint with this paint to achieve this colour. And I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to try and sell me like 8 different variants of the colour red. It's like, no, if you want it, just blend it with this and you'll get this. And it's like, oh, thank you. Like, that's fucking awesome. Like, thank you very much. So they only have 3 colours for each of their shades. And it's just like, just deal with it. And
I mean, the thing is, you can do that, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what I did when I was younger.
Yeah, a lot of people, including myself in the early days, really shy away from mixing paints because you'd be like, sorry, I can't do it unless I've got rust grey, exactly rust grey. And then actually you can just take black and white and mix them or whatever it is. It's got a bit of blue in it. But, you know, you mix it up yourself a little bit. Now, the only thing with that is that you've got to kind of have a good eye for it on the palette, because if you mix it and then paint a load of models and then mix it again and it's slightly off, then they'll be slightly different. So that is always the danger there. But you can get a good eye for it, I think.
I think that's why GW paint's really useful when you're doing lots of miniatures, because you can get that exact tone every time. But if you're playing a skirmish game, like fucking just blend it.
It doesn't matter.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It'll look
Each
cool
character's different anyway, right?
Yeah, they're different people, right?
Like, if you've got like a bunch of guys wearing ragged leather armor, you probably want that ragged leather scraps to be different on each guy anyway. So if it's slightly off every time, it actually adds to the value. So, you know, go wild.
Exactly. So on that note, obviously GW seems like they're refining their sort of like product range / online presence. Forgeworld, its disappearance from like having an official site, and it's into sort of linking into the main sort of Warhammer site. Yeah, integrated linking.
Interwoven.
Interwoven. Into wanking. Into the Warhammer site now.
Some people are.
Indeed. So does that mean, are Forgeworld dying on their ass? Like is it a dead department? Like, and you know, I've got something straight out to say, and I think not being a conspiracy theory, but I think it kind of is, right? Like, where, you know, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, like having a Forgeworld item was like kind of a badge of honor and quite a rarity. Where like, especially in the early 2000s, where it seemed like Forgeworld was like where you went to go for like a hugely detailed mini or like a big, like epic sized model. Yeah, I don't mean epic as in Mastodon. The game, but I mean as in a big, like what a Baneblade originally was, right? Because let's not forget, a Baneblade was originally a Forgeworld sculpt, right? And also like replacement heads for certain units that were like mega detailed, right? Yeah. And I think the reason why they did that was because obviously that was how you got a very detailed model, was via a resin thing, and you were kind of fucked by the limitations of how plastic went. But now, look at what you're capable of with plastic now. I mean, have you noticed the decline of Forgeworld as a brand?
I think firstly you can see it from a gameplay point of view, right? Because obviously they've kind of isolated the Forgeworld stuff into Horus heresy and then just taken most of it away, or just got rid of it. And 40k doesn't have a huge amount left. I think they're kind of getting it to a point now, I've noticed, where they're almost just shuffling out the entire 40k range, entire Forgeworld range for each of the army, except for maybe just their big old Titanic one. So same for Necrons. We lost all the Canup Tech stalkery guys, like the little, you know, wiggly centipede lads and stuff like that, the anthracites. And we've now only got that monstrosity that we discussed, the Saraptech, whatever it's called, Stalker or something like that. That thing. Yeah. That's it. That's all we have left now. And I don't think it'll even be that long till that's gone. I think maybe next edition, they'll completely phase it out. Because it's going that way, you know. Look at all the culling that happened to World Eaters. Poor World Eaters players, my God.
Yeah, there were some really cool units that went by the Dodo, right? And it's just... Massively. And some were really cool, actually. Some were actually really fun. But it's like, you know... it's really sad to think about that Forgeworld might cease to exist as an entity as we know it, right? Like, you know, I suppose they always want to sell a Titan because it is like such a mainstay of the Warhammer 40k universe.
It's massive.
But I wonder how many times... Well, yes, is it. But I do wonder, part of me does wonder, like, how many they sell a year, right? And, like, is it worth it to keep that machine going? You know, whether they just, like... they just put that machine on overdrive, make another 1,000 of them, and just go, that's it now. Like, we've only made 1,000 of these forever.
The old eBay scalpers are going to be like,
exactly. If you want one, buy them, because after this point, they're gone forever, right? And, you know, and even on a mini of that scale, there are sometimes issues with it. Like, Minis bought one, right? And, like, actually had issues with some of the major components coming together.
Not good.
So, you know, I don't know. I mean, one thing I will say, there is a niche for Forgeworld currently. Is all of its specialist games. So, like the Horus Heresy, there are still some characters that are only Forgeworld sculpts. Yeah. Like the Primarchs and other things. And, of course, Blood Bowl and Necromunda and some of the other tertiary games, Lord of the Rings and stuff, have some prominent 3D models. But Forgeworld models. But, like... Yeah, I think in terms of like the mainstay 40k, I think you're going to see it gone. Same with Sigmar, see it gone. What was the Fantasy? You'll see it because again, it's technically like a specialist game now. Yeah. But maybe it's just going to be the home of the specialist game sculpts until eventually either those specialist games disappear or they replasticize them or whatever. You right?
Turn my lights off. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, you're right. I do. Like their specialist games are basically where they're left, I think now. And I do think we're seeing them, especially for 40k. They're just dying out. They'll be gone soon. I can't imagine you'd barely ever see any of them on the tabletop because there's barely any of them left, and it's only those big boys really, and that's about it. So it's a shame, but I think going forwards, as you were touching on earlier, like the plastic models, the detail on them is so incredible now. They don't need that Forgeworld resin anymore to make it, and in fact, I think that Forgeworld resin often looks worse nowadays than the plastic, which is a bit cringy, but it is what it is.
It's true,
the technology's evolved.
And it's far harder to work with. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's so much more prep. God, I hate it.
Yeah, and you will never see a model disintegrate like a Forge World model dropped at great height.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Don't.
Just even thinking of it. Yeah.
Hurts me.
Well, yeah, you do it with a plastic model, you have something broken off it, or sometimes it might be just, if it's a solid sculpt, it might just bounce, right? But you drop a fucking Forge World model of any weight whatsoever, that thing is like shattered into a million
super
pieces.
glue is brittle anyway, and it'll just all of it just snaps, and it's a hot mess. God. I've heard some horror stories of stuff like this where apparently I don't know if it was. Did you tell me this or someone else told me that they were at an event and a guy had his army in his box on the floor, and a guy stepped back into the box and just crunched like half his fucking army.
I mean, a part of me is like, I want to kick that guy's ass, but then another part of me is, don't leave your fucking army in a box.
You never have room to put it anywhere else. Where can you put it?
On the floor? Like, that's
I have to do that sometimes.
You'd be like, no, you don't know.
I usually put it on a chair if I can, but sometimes the box is too big.
I've never done that. Like, dude,
but that's because you've got fancy schmancy like backpack cases and stuff like that you can.
We've had this conversation. Don't put your fucking army in a shoebox. Just don't.
Look, my army's not in a shoebox. It's in a lovely, really useful box that's magnetized.
Yeah,
but
I guess if the lid's open, then fair enough. But if the lid of that thing's closed, then that dude's going to be hitting plastic. He's not going to be hitting models.
The closest I've ever come to destroying like models on the table, and I have destroyed a couple of my own ones doing this, is I sometimes get like, when I'm thinking and I'm walking around, I'll start spinning my tape measure in my hand, and then I'll just accidentally go whoop, and it just escapes. And I've crushed a couple of locusts doing that on those bloody flying stands, and they just snap off of them instantly, and I'm sat there going, oh fuck. Now I've got to pin one whilst I'm playing a game.
Oh, no.
It's the worst thing.
You twat.
Sweating, doing a little drilling.
That's all your fault. Oh, God. The worst thing that I've ever seen recently, and we were talking about shoebox bullshit, and like, it's something that I take very seriously.
You
know where I'm going to go with this. And I saw it on a Horus heresy group. I'm not going to name the person, because bless him. But, like, it was a dude that had like a Leviathan Dreadnought and a Mastodon in a fucking cardboard box. And I was like, why? I was like, no. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
That must have hurt you as a Mastodon enjoyer.
Oh, God. I was like, I need that model in my life. And you're just casually like, yeah, it's
chuck in a shoebox. It'll be fine. Easy.
Honestly, people are mad. People are absolutely mad. Anyway, support Forge World. I think it's going to go the way of the dodo. But we'll come on. We'll come back to that in a few years' time because
in like a year or two,
we're here
be
forever.
Yeah,
we're
the
here
new edition
forever.
will be like, oh no, it's gone already.
It's gone. Predicting it now.
Yep.
So, on to quite a fun subject now, and we would like some community feedback from this because I'd be curious to what everyone's favourite 40k sculpts are. So, what are your favourite 40k sculpts of all time? Like, gush about your favourite sculpts, go for it. I've got a few that I definitely want to talk about.
That are just incredibly cool. Like, some of them it's just because of the scale or the spectacle of them, and some of them it's just because of just how badass they are, generally speaking. I think I've got to start with my boy, the Silent King. I think they absolutely nailed his model. He is so cool. He is a bastard to paint because you have to do him in a million bloody pieces, but he is such a cool kid. And like, he just looks, he's just like on the tabletop, like, cometh ateth me, broeth. I fucking love it. So that's my first pick as a Necrons enjoyer. I think he's amazing. Like, it's so cool. Such a cool sculpt.
He's the very definition of what I would affectionately describe as a centerpiece model, right?
Yeah, he's so cool.
Where where like he just draws your eye to him. I mean, to be fair to you, again, just to like give you my eternal love as always because of our bromance. Like your one is superbly painted.
Well, it is. It's better now. It's better now. I had to redo him because I rushed him out and never did him. But now that I've taken him apart and finished him, he's so much better. Yeah, got his orange glow.
He's on the gram.
He's on the gram. I did his. So all of my Catan are done with a special type of like sort of silvery gold that's got like a sort of verdigris kind of bluey effect to it. And I've made his cloak out of the same material. So he's literally wearing a Catan skin cloak, which I think is baller.
That is baller.
Badass, yeah.
Yeah, you know that you're a god amongst immortals.
Yeah, and he's literally just got like a tortured Catan, like powering his throne up above.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. Yeah, he's like, please kill me. And he uses him as his personal battery on the back.
Yeah. I remember because the whole thing of why he explodes so hard when he goes, he's like, I'm about to burst. Like it's because of the Catan. Because Catan explode when they die, right? And it used to be called Vengeance of the Enchained or something like that. And you also used to be able to auto explode him in 9th edition for 1 CP. And it was like 2d6 mortal wounds. And you could just wipe the whole midboard with it. It was beautiful. I miss those days. He used to be such a baller. But anyway, I digress.
That's beautiful. That's a great choice. Can you guess what my favourite model of all time is, Ed?
I know exactly what your favourite one is. It's like your version of what I've just said. Go on.
It's so obvious. It's obvious. It's the most obvious thing ever. But technically, it was kind of split into two, right? Because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my return to the hobby was, I remember making a vow to myself when I was younger, because like what happens with a lot of people, you kind
Dark Angel.
So Dark Angel. The vow.
Holy Emperor.
My oath of moment. And my oath of moment was when I was younger, because I took a dip out of the hobby in my like late teens, going into most of my 20s.
As many of us did.
Well, life happens, right? And my oath of moment was, if they ever bring a lion model back or make a lion model, I will return to the hobby. And blow me.
Like the lion himself, you're such a twat.
Such a twat.
Go on.
Such a twat. And they did the Horus heresy lion model. Yeah. And I looked at that and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. But I do prefer the 40k version.
Yeah.
I was so anxious about how that model was going to turn out. Because, Ed, honestly, I cannot underplay this, but like, I was so emotional about the Lion's Return. Like, it sounds so like such a Dark Angel thing to say. Like, I was so about that. I felt like the whole like sort of hobby was just pointed at me in that moment where I was like, "This is it. This is my time. This is my time now." And when they did the I think it was around Chris. Shut up, Ed. They were like, they
rise, son of the lion. Russ sheds a single lonely tear, and then he's like, "I'm too hard for this."
I was well emotional, but I obviously weirdly I came back to the hobby at this point when they did it.
Yeah.
And I'd always say to Mel, like, the lion's returning, and she's like, "Is he though?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's returning. He is. I promise." And I think they teased like a sleeping actual lion.
Yes, they did
on the social media. And I was like, oh my god, is this actually it? And shout to Mr. Valrak, and Valrak was saying for months, he was like, the lion's coming back, and everyone was like, oh, Valrak, of course he is. That's fine. Yeah. And I was like, oh my god. Like, he is actually coming back, and then the footage of the model of him, and I looked at the model, and I just went, oh. Yeah. I was just like, that is it.
Just drop your yogurt.
That is it. And I dropped that yogurt so hard. And like, I was just like, and I was so surprised actually, because obviously Guilliman came back.
Yeah.
And like, Guilliman looks like Guilliman. Right? Because of his status thing. No, but like, he looks exactly like Guilliman.
No, he does. He hasn't really aged.
Right? Like, he's
right,
got, there's nothing. And in my head, I just always perceived the lion to come back like the lion always was, right? We don't know how like a Primarch ages, because like the demon Primarchs and stuff are always fucked up, and they always look like they do. And Guilliman was in stasis, but we didn't know whether that was the stasis thing or the fact that he was a Primarch or whatever. Yeah. But you look at the lion and you're like, oh, he's King Arthur now.
Yeah.
He's like old now. He like looks like Charles Dance. And like it was different to what I expected, but I was like
cool.
I was like, oh yeah, like absolutely. Yeah, all in. Yeah, yes, please shut up and take my money.
Yeah. You can see him as like a proper like questing knight, like of old, you know.
Well, like I've always perceived the knight differences between the Black Templars and the Dark Angels to be Black Templars are Crusaders. They are the classic Crusader knights from European like history, and the Dark Angels are like a slightly more emo version of Arthurian legend, really.
Yeah,
but like monk that are kind of monk-like and kind of and the lion completely. And I was just like, mwah! And I think he got the model of the year that year as well. So
yeah, he did. I think I just love like the Lion's whole thing with like the way they brought him back with his rules and the lore and the fluff and stuff. Like his forest walking ability is just so fucking cool. Like because it's all to do with Caliban, obviously, having been like a forested world, etc., etc. And like I just love the idea of like, you know, you got all these like chaos guys all like running through, and then there's like a tree, and then it's all of a sudden he's just like, watch out, watch out, watch out. He just comes out from behind the tree. Like literally, what the fuck? Where did this guy come from? He cleaves them all in twain. It's great. Such a cool guy.
The forest.
I've loved the forest.
I've always loved the forest. I'm a country boy. I grew up in forests and fields, so like,
so
that's part of my whole
country
vibe.
Boys need to stick together.
Apparently so. You were more of a posho lad. I was a farmer's son, though. So
no, I'm from Northampton, mate. I'm not posh, eh?
Oh well, true. Yeah. But was your dad a farmer?
No, but my dad was born in a council house, but he's done pretty well for himself since then. So
fair play. He's okay, then I will never use that as a thing against you. Yeah, that's great. Good for you.
I wasn't born in a council house. I was born in a British estate. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, that's where you like to get that back. You're like,
Jeeves, fetch me my yogurt. I need to drop it. They've released a new lion model.
There you go. Any other sculpts?
I'm sure. Right. So off the top of my head, there's another one that I really, really loved. And this is not for an army I play, but it's the Death Leaper model for Tyranids, because it's just so fucking over the top and cool. And I love it. Oh, it's so cool. I'm really, really into the Lictors, because I just Lictor, I barely knew her. But no, they are such cool models. Like the whole, you know, over the top arms. They just, I don't know why, they just really look really predatory and sneaky, and they just do it for me. And I think the Death Leaper's like literally the apex of that, and he's just cool. I thought that was a wicked sculpt when they brought that out.
Beautiful.
I'm into that one.
Beautiful.
What about you?
I kind of feel the same. Excuse me. I kind of feel the same way about another sculpt, where I would never play this faction ever. But when I was younger, there was nothing that put the fear into me in an uncanny valley, almost like demonic way, when I looked at this model and kind of shat myself. Where it was the Avatar of Cain.
Oh,
and when
he's
it was
so cool.
in like second ed, the metal one was terrifying, and to see it actually get some love in the modern era in its current form. Oh my god, that model's stunning. Is that model not stunning?
Yeah. No, it's such a beautiful model. It really is incredible.
And I've seen people paint it in like gnarly pinks and purples or whatever, and it still has that same like presence of I'm gonna fuck you. I am gonna fuck you and be terrified of me. Yeah. And I look at that thing and I'm like, if I'm a man, I'm going to be, you know, a guardsman on the front line. I'm going to be like, oh shit. Like, get out the Bane Blade. Come on, let's do it, lads. Let's do it.
I'm really torn on my last choice. Like, there's so many damn good models. Like, it's a night. I've got one that I really love because it's whimsical, and I've got one that I really love just because it's like it's just such a cool model.
Name both, because I'm going to name a couple quick fast.
The whimsical one that I love is the shock attack gun orc mech guy. That's like sucking up a little grot and like zapping him into your chest and blowing you up. Because I just think it's like such a fucking cool idea. And the model is great.
The orcs do have some great models.
They do. Like the little grot's like, oh, like he's clawing, he's trying not to be vacuumed up by this fucking orc. It's just brilliant. So that's one of my favorites, just from like a whimsical point of view. But the other one I absolutely love, and I've always loved it, is Scarbrand. He is just such a cool model. Like he just really, they just absolutely nailed his aesthetic as this guy who's literally just been punted across the warp by Khorne because he tried to betray him, and you can just see where he's like impacted, and he's all just fucked up. His wings are all tattered, his face is all ripped. Like he's just a hot mess, but he just looks gnarly. And I just love his model. I think he's just so cool. Like one of my favorite sculpts.
He also illustrates like how powerful Khorne is, right? Because if you look at that fucking thing and you're like, oh my god, that's so op looking, and then just the Chaos God just was like, be gone, and you're like, oh fuck!
I love the mental image that like Khorne is just this. There's a picture of like of him like, on this throne where he's just like this shadow, and like you can just imagine him like Scarbrand being like, whoa, and just like slamming this axe into Khorne's like shoulder, and Scarbrand's like actually this big, and Khorne just goes and just flicks him across the warp with just a finger, and that's what did all that damage. Like I can in my head, that's great headcanon. So yeah, I love that. Scarbrand's a boy.
Love it.
What's your choices?
So some quick and fire ones. The first Dark Angel sculpt that I ever saw, which planted the seed of how much I love the Dark Angels, was actually the most heretical fallen Dark Angel ever, and that is Cypher. It's an OG second-hand gunslinger Cypher where he's like...
Oh, it's such a cool...
Love that. Yeah. Love that metal model. I still want to track one of those down and just get it for sentimental reasons because I looked at that when I was a kid as an angsty Linkin Park fan or whatever and was just like, oh, yeah. That's me. I want to be
like,
that cow.
Like leather wristbands and stuff.
My sense of fashion was all over the fucking place when I was younger, mate. You don't want to know. Like, I look like
it's clearly improved.
Dilf. Dilfy. But like, yeah. So Cypher, Aveline, as previously discussed. Not that anyone could fucking get her. Also, a lot of the sister sculpt, Celestine.
Celestine's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. What the hell? And the Mummy Celestine, and also a Xenos choice. Farsight, Commander Farsight, that looks like he's on the front cover of like Evangelion or an anime or something.
Yeah,
like,
that is cool.
Even got the cherry blossoms behind him, and he's like, you know what I mean? It's like he's about to like sing the Evangelion song and like take someone's name.
Like looking back at like OG sculpts, I really love the old Necron pariahs. I've still got one. They're like the old metal ones, and they were like cyborg human Necron hybrids that they were kind of turning humans into. Do you know what? Maybe with this whole tithes thing where they're like whipping Space Marines through the portal, maybe they're going back that way. Maybe they're trying to like figure out some kind of way of getting themselves back a body or something. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'm getting spiced up with this lore. Right. Anyway. So yeah, cool models.
By the way, I played against those in like third ed.
Did you?
They were op. They ignored armor saves, I'm pretty sure.
Did they?
And
they were cool.
Yeah. I think their blades did something stupid like ignored armor saves. They also had those like little tubey coloured rods in their guns, like in the end of their guns.
I'll paint mine at some point, and I'll use him as like a little Necron Lord because he's just cool.
I think they were originally like bodyguards for lords and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, they were.
They were like bodyguard units.
Cool. I've got the old OG Necron Lord as well. It's one of my favorite old ones where he's like got the cape and he's like his hands like coming out like this, and he's got this sort of pointing. He's just so cool. Like some of those old ones are amazing.
That Necron range from third ed actually aged really well. Like there was some really
the ones before not so much, but the third ed ones are good.
They're just like Terminators, aren't they?
Yeah, they were like
dun.
Yeah, they were. It's terrible
with their spiky guns.
Yeah.
Although very strong though in second ed. My God. Like,
I mean the Necrons have always been strong on and off. So.
Yeah.
So there are some. In summary, there are some bloody incredible models in this game. We can't go through. We're just going to name the whole fucking range if we carry on at this.
And I like this one. And I like this one.
And this one. Belial's sculpt is really cool. His new one. Oh, let's stop. Let's stop. Isn't it? Oh, what's it? Is it Asmodai? That's the one that I really liked with the smoke billowing down.
Yeah, dude, Asmodai, the most pissy of all Dark Angels. Like, don't laugh around Asmodai. You'll be sworn to silence for 2 consecutive years.
I've got I got a fever, and the only solution is more cowbell. No, the only solution is I feel like I've got all these Space Marine models, and I keep looking at them like, should I just sell them and get rid of them? And then I'm like, build them as Space Wolves, because when they get do loads of cool stuff.
Hold on a minute.
So I'm like,
did you just say? What did you just say?
Nothing.
Does that make us mortal enemies, Ed? Space wolves? Get out! Get out!
I've told you.
Why
This
would you play
podcast
this
is turning
faction?
me.
Oh no! Oh, I'm
turning
judging
me.
you. God, don't play Space Wolves. Oh,
Look,
God.
I'm just a sticky wolf boy. What can I say?
I'm gonna have to come down on you hard, you furry.
Oh,
like, you're
God, please
dead
don't.
to me. You're dead to me. Oh God, lion versus the wolf again. Bring it on.
It's gonna
God,
happen at some point.
That's
If they bring,
win.
that's gonna be my foray into Space Marines. If they bring back Russ, Lehman Russ, I'm in.
That's always an easy win for me on the tabletop because I always piss off a Space Wolf player. But I'm like,
You won't
oh,
piss
so
me
you got
off
the-
though,
got
because
the
I'll just double
inferior-
down and annoy you because I know
got
it
the
actually
inferior
annoys you.
legion, and they just start getting triggered. They're just like, I have you know that the Space Wolves are... I'm like, ha 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 ha, that's a funny joke.
I'm under your
Go
skin.
then, charge me. Oh, you've been in a killing floor with Hellblasters. Pow, 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 pow.
All right, enough.
Enough.
Talking about, talking about legions
Wetlands.
versus legions.
Wetlands.
Yeah. So
Primarch this was
fights.
yes, indeed. This was a fan question from Emanuele. Hello, Emanuele. I love you. You're a great guy. He's a great guy. We all love a bit of Emanuele action. Lives in Brazil currently, not to dox him, but I hope you have fun in Brazil, my man.
I'm sure they won't pin him down just from that whole it's quite a large country.
Cartel and all that fine. So we have yeah, exactly. Let's go. So the question is, which Primarchs won head-to-head fights with each other, and which fights would we have liked to have seen? Now,
that's a great question.
There's a lot of Primarch fights, Emanuele. There's been a lot, and if we were to sit here doing all of them, we'd be here for like at least an hour discussing them. So we're gonna carve that down to some of the more notable or interesting, or some of our favourite fights. And then we'll talk about which fights we would have liked to have seen like unfold properly.
Yeah.
So, would you like to start, Ed, or shall I?
No, I'll start. We'll go Russ versus the Lion, seeing as we're on that topic. Those boys have had a little bit of a bruise off in the past, haven't they? So
yeah, how many fights are you aware of between the lion and the wolf?
I'm not aware of a huge amount. I think so. I'm not super clued up in this because it's been a while since I've been reading the Horus heresy. So you can take the lead on this one and educate.
Yeah, no, I like this. So as far as I'm aware, and again, if anyone's a massive Horus heresy nerd and like actually like give us a little bit of thrift because this is a very vast subject. Mm-hmm. But I knew of two notable examples, one of which was a fight, one of which not so much, but the lion did fuck the wolf quite hard. Where the first fight was when during the Great Crusade, when there was a world that was was resisting compliance and was basically giving the Space Wolves a hard time and basically insulted the Emperor on a Vox call with Lehman Russ, which is something you never do, really.
Bad idea.
And the Wolf King was like, I will kill you with my bare hands. And he like tracks this warlord
Surely it's
down.
wolf hands.
Wolf hands, wolfy paws. Wolf. And basically tracks this knobhead down to his like keep or whatever. And gets there and just finds that the lion just decapitated him and killed him already. And which the lion and the wolf have a brawl that lasts something very grim derpy that lasts for days. Whilst like the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves are silently like watching it happen. And they're just like fist fucking each other. They're just like going for it.
Okay. What were you going with that for a hot second?
And technically the lion wins because they get to the point where the wolf several days later kind of laughs at the fact that what they were doing and why they were doing it and the fact that they were even doing it in the first place. Yeah. And he kind of wants to roll the battle down, and bless the lion, kind of missing social cues, thinks that that's a slight and then proceeds to literally knock the wolf king out.
Nice.
Fucking nuts him and
knocks
him out.
Clonk.
And then by the time that Lehman Russ wakes up, the Dark Angels are gone.
He's like,
and then there was another instance where after the Siege of Terror, because Lehman Russ is a knobhead and decided to go and fight Horus, despite the fact that if he would have stayed on Terror, he probably would have helped the defenders no end and probably would have really resisted Horus really well. And fucks it up and doesn't kill Horus. And then after the siege, Obviously, we all know what happened to the Emperor then. The lion kind of comes and basically doesn't know how to vent his grief and rage and stabs the Wolf King, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes things better.
And the lion the wolf just takes it like a bitch. No, he just takes it because he realizes that he has a lot of guilt himself, and And I love the and the interaction with the wolf and the lion is always interesting because, and I love this analogy. This is my favorite way to describe like the wolf and the lion, right? Where it's like, you know, the lion is truly an animal hiding behind the veneer of being human, and the Wolf King is human but hiding behind the veneer of being an animal. I love that. Where like you know, Lehman Russ always has this reputation as being a monster, right, and being this like thing, but behind closed doors, he's actually quite cultured. Like he's very intelligent, and like you know, he's not as bad as what he wants his reputation to quite rightly be, because he wants to have that reputation as being the executioner, right? But he's got loads of stuff inside where he's actually way more aware. And the lion is the opposite, where the lion is actually behind all of that, an absolute beast, but always has the veneer of being in control at all times, and always very like demure and just like low down, and actually when he snaps, he's an absolute animal.
It's a monster.
There you go. Sorry, I just grabbed your point.
No, I wanted you to educate me on it. I feel like I've learned quite a lot there, so that's good. What's your first choice?
Sorry, now I just realised that now I'm just going on a tangent.
Don't be silly. You monologue. I'll interrupt you otherwise.
I love being a storyteller, so it's fine.
I'm enjoying it.
One of my favourite fights is the Khan versus Morty at the Siege of Terror.
Yeah.
So this is in the book Warhawk, which is my personal favourite out of the Siege. If you haven't read the Siege, do it. They're fucking fantastic. They're really, really good. But essentially, this is when the Khan rides out, right? And like Morty is like giving the loyalists some shit on the front lines and stuff. And basically, there was always some conversation and shit talking between Morty and the Khan over the years, where they had like a weirdly uneasy respect for each other. And Morty was always under the impression that he would always win a fight between them, because he always knew that the Khan was faster than him, and that was never an issue. But what Morty always perceived was that he was always hard. Like, he was always harder. He could always weather the storm of the Khan until he saw them opening, and then he would just wreck the Khan, right? Because he always perceived the Khan as being quite light in terms of his, like, toughness or whatever. And basically, the Khan realised this too. And they had this awesome fight with each other where the Khan realised that eventually he was going to die because Morty would wear him down. And the Khan did the ultimate fuck you move. And this is where Morty's kind of like semi-demonic at this point, because obviously he's made his pact with Nurgle, right? And he decides to skewer himself on the scythe of Mortarion and drag himself down it, and then decapitates Morty in the most baller move. In the most baller move ever, which Morty shits himself because he's like, the Khan, is that hard to like take that? And the Khan just goes and just like rams himself down the scythe and then like decapitates Morty and kills him.
Yeah.
And what would normally be a mortal wound from that, Malkador heals him up and like gets him back on his feet.
What a Sigilite.
And like the Sigilite's my man. I love the Sigilite.
Yeah, he's cool. He is cool.
He's the best. He's like one of the most unsung.
We could do a whole episode of lore discussion on
Oh, we need to do that. Why the Sigilite is the best character in Warhammer.
He's super cool.
But isn't that cool?
That is really cool. I assume Morty recovers because he's the demon Primarch,
demon,
so
right?
he just goes back to the warp
and stuff.
And
but humbled from his
it reminds me of the Mountain versus the Red Viper of Dawn, that kind of
Very
fight. Like, it's a similar sort of thing. You know, you've got one that's really quick and one that's just a beast, like, you know, hard to take down. Interesting.
Now, I know we both wanted to discuss this one, but I will let you discuss it because I think it's such an iconic
Well, it's
fight.
the classic, right? It's Horus versus Sanguinius, because obviously they have a little scrap in the End of the Death, etc., in the throne room with the Emperor, and that is like probably the most well-known Primarch fight, right? We all know the outcome of that fight. And now we've got the book that describes the fight, so it's pretty cool. It's a really
Have you listened to or read it Have you listened
Not
to
yet,
it already?
because I'm nearly finished Game of Thrones, and once I finish that, I'm going to dive back into the Horus heresy. I think I'm just going to start again and just work my way through all of them.
Dude, just go from the siege. Just go from the siege, mate. Honestly,
yeah, maybe I should do that.
It's great.
Yeah,
but written by Dab Abnet.
Dab Abnet, yeah, he's great.
Dab Abnet.
I love Dab.
I'll tell you what, mate. I think we all knew how that fight was going to obviously go down. Like, it's part of like borderline Warhammer folklore, right?
Yeah.
What didn't prepare me was how like emotional I would be reading Sasha's into it. I'm even like kind of going there now. It's horrible, Ed. It's horrible.
Is it?
Like it's actually like dastardly, that fight.
Like, spoilers, obviously, for the end of the death here.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, dude, yeah.
We know the outcome, all of us, right? As you said, it's Warhammer lore, but it's more like, the details I'm talking about.
There's bits where, like, he's described as, like, Sanguinius's face kind of peeling off.
Oh, jeez.
And, like, him getting beaten like a dog, I think it's described, right, with the mace, and just his body getting crushed. And, like, afterwards, like, to really, like, hammer home, like, how far Horus has fallen, because, obviously, it was argued that Sanguinius and Horus were like two of the closest Primarchs. Like the demonic entities and the Chaos Gods that are like watching from the shadows. Like, it's kind of described, the Chaos Gods are kind of like observing the entire fight. Just like the dark forces after Sanguinius is just like beaten, just kind of come out, and then they just string up like Sanguinius's body like a caricature, like what happens to Ed Stark. Yeah, I know, isn't it haunting? Like what happens to Ed Stark at the Red Wedding, right? Where it's like, you know, like the angels then hung up as like a fucking, isn't it?
His head gets cut off and his wolf's head gets replaced on top of it, and they march.
Similar kind of vibe, but like
rough,
in a dark angelic kind of way. The angels like strung up again, and it's like, oh,
savage.
And the Chaos Gods are obviously like wanking off to it because they're like, yes, the angel is dead.
He must have known this was coming, right, Sanguinius, because he has foresight, doesn't he? And it's the same as the only other one that has it to that extent is Conrad Kurz, isn't it? And he foresaw his own death as well. Although his death is like super, like shady as fuck. And it's, I feel like it's a bit of bullshit. Maybe I feel like he's actually still kicking about.
Well,
and that he's just
no. I think he is dead. But I think the thing is with how I think it's rumored
he gets killed by an
like,
assassin, right?
Yeah, Calidus. But like, I think the difference was with the foresight between Sanguinius and Conrad is that like Sanguinius kind of always knew like the Emperor, like the future was one of many outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, and it, granted, I think the Emperor described it as like going up a mountain, but like stones disappearing, and then you're having to like grasp another one, right? And inevitably, your end will always potentially be the same, because however you get there, you're like
it's the journey.
Limited options.
Differs.
You got like limited options of how you get there, right? But like it sent Conrad mad, right, to the point where he was sold that like that's how he was going to die, that's how it was going to happen, and there's no way that I can change it. Ironically, just to tie this into the subject, it didn't really help him during his fight with the lion, because even if he could foresee the future, the lion had like Dragon Ball energy, like Dragon Ball S-Force energy. Where despite the fact that Conrad could see the future and could like kind of do, it didn't really do him much good, and the lion fucking wrecked him and broke his back like a fucking baller. Because no one fucks with the lion, bro. No one fucks with the lion.
Yeah.
Which very quickly on that subject, who would you have liked to have seen in Primarch bowls, like Kaglen bowls, like Primarch faces on?
God, that is a good question. I mean, I think that obviously, what's his name? Hang on a second. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So Conrad Kurz, I think, would be a super cool fight. Okay. Against Korax.
Oh.
Because they're both kind of like into those, you know, little Wolverine claws, and I feel like they'd just be quite interesting. Obviously, I know that Korax has turned into some kind of weird demon god, demon's spooky crow or whatever. But like
spooky crow. Sorry, that's really funny.
He's like,
nevermore.
You telling me that he said nevermore was just sent me over the edge last time. That was just too much for me. I was like, no, he didn't. No one would write that.
Google it. Fucking Google it.
I believe you. That's the worst thing. But they'd be quite a cool fight to have, I think, because they're both kind of like stealthy in different ways.
It'd be like Metal Gear Solid. It'd be Metal Gear Solid. That's a great one.
That's a fight.
That's a really cool one, actually. Of course, Conrad would win because Horus is a bit of a pussy.
A little bitch.
Well,
who would you like to see?
Raven Guard. Yes. Because of the dueling, and I love the lion, and this may be something that may happen in the future.
Go on.
The potential miniature return of Fulgrim. The lion versus Fulgrim. Like two of the best duelists ever going at it.
That'd be cool.
Oh! Be cool. Can you imagine like the lion parrying and blocking like 4 snake swords coming at him?
You're getting me fired up. Can you
just like deflecting him? And just like giving him shit, being like, "Look how far you've fallen, brother."
Do you know what I'd love?
Fulgrim being like, "I thought you would never wake up." Just like coming at him. Oh,
do you know what I'd love? I'd love for the lion to be fighting Fulgrim, and then for Fulgrim to just do some like mad, like demonically empowered parry that just explodes the lion's sword into a million pieces, right? And then as the lion's on the floor in the jaws of defeat, Cypher turns up, gives him the lion's sword. Like chucks it slow motion, and the lion just catches it and just fucking like jams it through Fulgrim's heart and just destroys him like out of the warp and everything. Nuts!
I've just dropped my yogurt. I have just dropped my yogurt.
So fucking cool. Please, Games Workshop, come on. You can if none of your writers will do it, hire me and I'll write it because it's fucking great.
Oh man, I'm semi now. My God, that's just
Colours drain from your face.
I've got to my place. I'm like, nice.
That'd be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah, dude, loving that.
I don't think we can top that, to be honest.
No, true. I would like to see new demon-encrusted Lorgar fighting Gulliman.
When you say demon-encrusted, that just sounds awful.
Demon-crusty.
Demon-crusted Laura. Sticky
Laura? Who's Laura?
Laura. Sorry, Laura. Laura.
Crusty Laura.
But she's demon-crusted.
Demon-crusted Laura. Demon-crusted Lorgar versus Gulliman.
Him.
Yeah, that like a Calth Part 2, right? Like that.
I thought you were going to say calcified.
Calcified. Oh, no, that was me 30 seconds previous. But
you were rock solid. No, brilliant. Well, to be honest with you, we talked about the cool ideas of like scopes with Primarch returning before. I think this is wicked. Like, there's so much they could do. I really want to see where they take it because I'm excited. There's so much scope for it. Oh, bring back more Primarchs. Come on, let's get fired up. Let's let this galaxy aflame.
Some people are like, no, I think they should stay in the past. I'm like, get fucked. Like, no,
fuck off.
No.
Get more
stop
back.
ruining my fun.
It's more fun.
Stop ruining my fun. Like, come
Bring
on,
back
man.
the Silent King's lesser-known brother, the Loud King.
He's
the Silent King's just like hovering around on his big chair. His brother's like, yo, what up? It's me, the Loud King, boy.
He's powering a speaker with like a fucking guitar. There are some really cool characters that we are yet to see in game that need models and they need more stories written about them. So let's go. Come on, Games Workshop. Give us what we want. And don't make them limited edition minis that we can only get on the secondary market for 3
We've made 3 copies of this new Primarch. Good luck.
So we're bringing back Perturabo, and he's going to be
I'm just going to have a last-minute rant.
Go.
Games Workshop needs to stop releasing codex in boxes and then not letting you play with the fucking codexes for like 2 months. It's bullshit. I hate it. It's a crap marketing strategy. It's really annoying as a competitive player. Stop doing it, Games Workshop. Stop it.
Yeah,
right.
Don't do that.
We'll end it there.
Just don't do it.
Don't do that. I hate it.
Maybe release the models a bit earlier, but not the codex.
Yeah,
just such a tease.
It's so
annoying.
annoying.
If you get the models early, you can build them ready.
Because competitively, nowhere will let you play with that codex until it's released separately. So you can't go to events with your new Blood Angels codex.
That must be so frustrating as a Blood Angels player right now.
God.
To have all that juice ready for
Can't
you
use
to...
it.
let loose. You can't let the juice loose.
The juice.
The
Comment,
angel,
like, subscribe.
If your juice is loose,
give us some juice.
Join us.
Yeah.
Juice us right up, baby. Juice us right
Exactly.
up. And tell
Please
me,
do.
who would you have liked to have seen fight? What Primarchs? And if it was anything other than the lion being amazing, then you have issues. I'll send the watchers.
I'm not judgy
round.
like this Dark Angel one over here.
Oh, I'm vengefully judgy. Like,
I'm a liberal wolf.
And don't you be joining that wolf side.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna paint like 5. I'm gonna paint like 5 assault intercessors in Space Wolf colours and send them to you just to annoy you now.
Don't do it.
Ah, great fun. Well, this has been fun. It's been a pleasure,
been fun,
guys.
as always.
Thank you again for tuning in. Yeah.
Thank you. And we love you lots. Thank you, Ed, for being my co-host today.
Thank you, Russ, for being my co-host. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you
Ciao!
next week. Ciao! That's not fucking annoying. See you guys.
Ciao!